Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, our faculty, the administration staff of the University of San Diego, I welcome you to our graduate commencement ceremonies. A few months ago, I had a great opportunity to be hiking in Austria, and I was going up a mountain to see a historical site, and I'm coming back down the mountain, and suddenly two children come around a corner. And I'm thinking, that's kind of odd that they'd be by themselves, and suddenly their mother comes around, and we had this beautiful conversation, talked about how nice of a day it was, looked out over the Danube River, and as we were parting, she looked at me, and she smiled, and she kindly said, "Have a good life." Not have a good day, not have a good hike, but clearly a broader meaning in our departure of have a good life. And her bidding me adieu, I believe, was a recognition that we would never see each other again, and that she hoped that I would have other days, like the beautiful days we both enjoyed in the mountains of Austria. This, of course, because I overthink things, made me ponder what exactly makes for a good life. You know, one of the advantages of being a university president is I have the opportunity to meet some very interesting people. The ones who made maybe the most lasting impression on me are the ones whose names you may not know or may not be commonly known, who lived very good lives indeed. The one thing I know, however, by being around them and getting to know them better, is the ones who've lived truly good lives, is that none of them lived easy lives. So what about a good life? What I've observed is that people who live truly good lives have a few common characteristics. First, people who live good lives understand that with whom you partner matters. In other words, they've chosen wisely their friends, their life partners, their business associates, their faith community. The second characteristic of these people have been that they possess a sense of optimism about life. They see the good in others, they respect the dignity of all people, and no matter what life throws at them personally, they continue to move forward. And the third thing I've noticed of those who've lived good lives is that they give fully of themselves to others, always going that extra mile for someone or some cause. In other words, their lives have a life of purpose. So please allow me to share three quick stories of individuals that I believe have lived good lives that I've known. The first one I'd like to talk about is a few weeks ago, about 2 months ago, we had a celebration of life honoring Peter Seidler, who's the former owner and CEO of the San Diego Padres, who tragically passed away last fall. He was a member of our Board of Trustees and was the chair of our Student Affairs Committee. As the CEO of the Padres, Peter could have lived a very privileged life, apart from everyone else, but instead he gave fully of himself. He was passionate about baseball and our beloved Padres. He was equally passionate, however, about finding solutions to the problems facing our fellow citizens who are homeless or unhoused. Peter would literally walk the streets at night around Petco Park, talking to unhoused individuals by himself so that he could better understand their plight. He used his connections and his position of power to form partnerships with government officials, nonprofit and for-profit leaders, and citizen groups to try to find solutions to this most urgent challenge. He always saw the value in others, and when he was diagnosed with cancer, he never complained, and he would only say that there were others who had tougher lives than his. And up to just a few weeks before his death, he was still working on things that he was passionate about, winning the pennant for the Padres and supporting the homeless. And as you can see, Peter Seidler did not live an easy life, but he lived a very good life and possessed the three traits that I mentioned earlier. He partnered well, he treated every person he met with respect and dignity, and he had a purpose. Sister Virginia Rodee is a living legend around USD, and you can usually find her on campus these days at the 12:15 Mass in Founders Chapel. Sister Jenna, as she is known, graduated in 1957 from the College of Women, and she also immediately was called to become a member of the Society of the Sacred Heart. She dedicated her entire life to serving others. Upon joining the order, she made the decision that she wanted to serve those who were scarred by the Korean War. She went to work with those who were left impoverished, struggling to survive, and she spent 23 years living in poverty and serving the poor. She was then called back to the U.S., and she's worked the rest of her career in education. She's now been affiliated with USD for 71 years. When you meet her, she will greet you with a smile, and in spite of her many physical ailments, now needing assistance to get around with a walker on campus, she still comes to campus every day to volunteer, to be part of our community. She too has the three characteristics. She partnered well with the Sisters of the Sacred Heart. She's optimistic about humanity, and she's always seen the best in others. And she has a purpose, to serve God by serving others. She's not had an easy life, but she's lived a good life. Many years ago, I lived in a small community in Ohio named Defiance. One of my favorite people was my neighbor. He was 2 doors down. His name was Dick Seibel. He was a retired local businessman. He always had a smile. He always had a good story to tell. I knew he had a distinguished career in World War II, but he never talked about that. We just talked about our lawns and what was going on. He was just my neighbor. He had a wife and a family. He belonged to local service organizations. He was an active and engaged citizen. One day, another citizen came to me and said, you know, the college where I worked, he said, you should honor Colonel Seibel for his leadership and courage during World War II. She went on to tell me the story of my neighbor. You see, in the last days of the war, he was leading a U.S. battalion to Germany. When he arrived in Austria, he was informed that the battalion was close to a Nazi death camp called Mauthausen. There were the last few days of the war. Instead of waiting for his orders, he pushed his battalion through enemy lines, days ahead of schedule, and liberated the camp. Historians estimate that by arriving just 3 days earlier, he saved over 5,000 lives of prisoners who were scheduled for execution. After arriving, he quickly organized medical support and food for the survivors, once again saving thousands of lives. He returns home to Ohio, marries his childhood sweetheart Mary. They remain together for the rest of their life. But he never forgot what happened when he entered that camp. He rarely spoke of the horrors that he encountered, but one thing he knew was that he was never going to let the world forget. For the rest of his life, he gave of himself by telling the story of the Holocaust, speaking to groups all over the world about how we cannot let hatred enter our hearts. And in fact, when you enter the Holocaust Museum in D.C., there's an exhibit dedicated to Colonel Seibel and describe what he discovered that day in 1945. Little did he know when he entered that camp on that fateful day that he would find his true purpose in life, to make sure that what he saw would never happen again. As you see, Dick Seibel did not have an easy life, but he did possess those 3 key characteristics. He partnered well, he was optimistic, and he found his purpose. He lived a very, very good life. So as you leave USD, I wish the best the world has to offer you. You've been prepared for fulfilling life at one of the great universities in the world. You're ready. You've been tested. Finishing a graduate degree is never easy. And again, as I said earlier, to do this during a pandemic is amazing. And while it will not be easy, I know that when the opportunity comes for you to step up, you will do just as Peter, Gina, and Dick did. You'll live out USD's vision, which is to foster peace, to work for justice, and to lead with love. Godspeed, class of 2024. Wish you very best. Oh, by the way, have a good life.
The University of San Diego will now proceed with the official conferral of degrees. Degrees will be conferred by the deans of the following schools: the Shiley Marcos School of Engineering,
the trustees of the University of San Diego, on the recommendation of the university faculty, and by virtue of the authority vested in them, hereby confer upon each of you the degree of Masters of Science, with all the rights, privileges, and honors thereunto appertaining. Please be seated.
Daniel Madsen. Elisa Kali Eslik. Michelle Nicole Wolf. Sunil Junko Higashino. Casey J. Ledbetter. Lauren Kloss. Leon Santen. Jack Carlson Joslin. John Carmelo Colon. Christopher Alri Maki. Kelsey Jade Pelton. Shai Ehrman. Matab Golab. Jonay Kiara Parks. Sion Heck. David Alexander Garcia.
Congratulations to the University of San Diego's newest graduates.